The Courting by Meinekeime, Chapter 1, The Truth. "Now leave," Vernon screamed, and pushed me into my bedroom. Well, it was Dursley's second bedroom originally, but I was allowed to sleep in here, at least when I did all the chores. I sat in one of the corners and curled up into a ball. The room was full of Dursley's broken toys. Sometimes I think I was thrown in here because I'm a broken toy too. My body was full of bruises and scars and burns. When Vernon gets drunk, he hits me. I was his personal punching bag. Aunt Petunia always made me do all the chores, and I was rarely allowed to eat the food I made. So I was thin and small too. 5'1" isn't a good height for a soon-to-be 17-year-old. I'm not sure if Dudley even knew that I lived in this house. But there wasn't long until Dumbledore would send someone to pick me up, and then I would be safe. Well, not safe, because Dumbledore wanted Ron, Hermione, and I to hunt for Horcruxes. Last year he faked his death to be able to work from the background. He thought that being in constant spotlight would ruin the plan of the Order. But what about me? Why can't I go into hiding away from the spotlight? I never asked to be the boy who lived. I never asked to be famous, because all that came to a price. The price of a family that loved me, the price of friends that were true friends. I know that Ron was only my friend because I had money, and that he always tried to get me and Ginny closer together. Hermione was my friend because compared to Ron and me, she seemed even smarter. I never wanted to be like this. I didn't want to die in a fight over something I didn't even understand. Over the summer, I realized that I never knew for what Voldemort fought, or Dumbledore. I was just told that Dumbledore was good and Voldemort wasn't. I had blindly followed that man for the greater good, as he said. I pulled my torn shirt a bit over my naked legs and waited. I didn't know what for. Vernon wouldn't let me out to have some food, and he beat me today already. I started to crawl out of my corner and tried to stand. Standing was hard because Vernon hit my knee today, and it still hurt. I looked out of the window and saw that it was dark already, and Hagrid's cage was empty. She went hunting, most likely. When I had tried reaching the bed, I heard my door opening. Fastly, I scrambled back into my corner and crawled up again. Maybe I was too loud, and Vernon decided to teach me a lesson. "Please, no, I'm in pain already. I didn't need more." I began to hyperventilate. A much leaner person entered the room. Did someone break in? Would they hurt me? I was seeing black when the person came near. "You don't need to be scared." The last thing I remember was being picked up, and then I lost consciousness. When I woke up, I wasn't in some dark chamber or bound to a wall. I didn't feel like I was in pain. When I looked around in the room, I saw a pretty nightstand and mint green walls. Under me was a comfortable bed with nice pillows and a mint green comforter. In front of the bed was a trunk, and on the wall was a big cupboard, together with a writing desk and chair. I was still wearing my shirt, so nothing happened to me in that way. Slowly, I tried to stand up. My knee didn't hurt as much, and I was able to stand without having to lean on something. Suddenly, a house elf popped up. "Master has asked Trippy to bring hay to the dining room." I nodded and tried to follow the house elf, who scurried around the house. The elf made too many turns for me to remember, and I was sure I wouldn't be able to return to the room without help. When we arrived in front of two big doors that I assumed led to the dining room, Trippy disappeared, and I had the choice. Should I find out who took me or try to escape? I don't know where I was, nor where the exit to this mansion was, and I was curious. So I opened the heavy doors and stepped into the room. There was a big room with a long table in the middle meant for many people. From the ceiling hung a chandelier. There stood 2 men in front of me. One was well known to me, but his hair wasn't greasy anymore. It looked silky and well kept. His nose wasn't as big and crooked as it used to be, and he shrunk some inches. There stood Severus Snape, talking to a person with white skin, no nose, and red eyes. Why was I in the same room as the Dark Lord and my potions professor? I know, Seb, but what if he isn't who we think he is? I don't know if you're able to survive another heartbreak, Tom Riddle said. Why shouldn't I be Harry Potter? Why heartbreak? I must have done something because 2 pairs of eyes snapped in my direction. Oh, Harry, we are sorry that we didn't notice you. Come here, you seem hungry, Snape said and gestured to the table. I debated if I should run or sit myself down. If they wanted to hurt me, they wouldn't have placed me in a nice room, and they would have already started casting curses onto me. So I stepped nearer to the table and set myself down. Voldemort sat the head of the table. To his right sat Snape, and I sat on his left. Voldemort snapped his fingers, and food appeared. There was bacon, pancakes, cereal, milk, bread, and jam. Please take something, Harry. It isn't poisoned or something, Tom laughed. With that said, I put some bread and some blueberry jam onto my plate. I wasn't used to eating a lot, especially in the morning. I usually only ate dinner when I was allowed to eat something. I was watching Snape and Voldemort interact. Tom was always touching Snape in some way, and they were both wearing a redding wing. I might not be the smartest, but I wasn't stupid either. I was able to put 2 and 2 together. Don't you want to eat more? Voldemort asked, and I shook my head. I was full. You need to eat, Harry. We will talk about this later. For now, Seb, please bring Harry to his room to change into something suitable. I will wait in the office till Griphook arrives. And with that, we all left the room. I followed Severus back to the room I slept in and asked, why? You will understand soon, Harry. Now come here. I will lay something out. Unfortunately, we only brought clothes for the case that all assumptions all right, so bear with it. When he opened the cupboard and poured out a pretty dark red dress with matching ballerina flats from the trunk, did he think I was a female? Last time I checked, I was a boy. Well, I had shoulder-length hair and curves, so I looked feminine, I guess. Put these on and I'll wait in the front of your room, Snape said and left. I slipped out of my shirt and put on the dress and shoes. And I had to be honest, I looked fantastic. When I left the room, Snape led me to another room in the mansion. Harry, this room is yours to enter only if you're allowed to. It's Tom's office. Then he opened the door and let me in. I always thought Voldemort would have a big, dark office with heads of house elves as decorations, like the staircase in Grindelwald's place. But it was rather homey, with dark brown furniture and a big bookshelf behind a desk. At the other side of the room was a coffee table with a love seat and 2 normal seats. Voldemort was sitting on the love seat, and next to him stood a goblin, Griphook, I assumed. Snape sat next to the Dark Lord, and I sat myself down into a seat. Now that we're all here, let's proceed. I will perform an inheritance and family test for you, Mr. Potter, Griphook said, and pulled out some stuff, a needle, parchment, and a potion. Poke your finger with this, Mr. Potter, he ordered, and I obeyed. I took the needle and let some blood drip out of my middle finger. Put 2 drops into the middle of this paper, Griphook said, and I let 2 drops of blood drip onto the parchment. Then the goblin carefully opened the vial with the potion and dripped half of it on the top of the blood. The mixture started spreading on the parchment and formed words. When it stopped, Griffith gave me the paper. Name: Harry Marvolo Prince Grant. Lord Potter, through will. Lord Black, through will. Mother: Severus Tabulus Snape. Lord Prince, submissive half Veela. Born the 31st of July, 1980. Father: Tom Marvolo Lord Grant, dominant, pure Veela. Inheritance: half Veela submissive, circle court, beginning at July 31st this year. Glamour: one placed by himself. Potions influence: none. Official guardians: Tom Marvolo, Severus Tabulus Snape. I gasped. I wasn't the son of Lily and James Potter. I had been lied to my whole life. When I gave the paper to Snape, I couldn't look into his eyes. He was the person who gave birth to me, the person who I hated for 6 years. Suddenly, I was hugged. "We found you. We did. We found you. We finally did," someone said. "Lord Potter Black, I see that Albus Pervis Ruffic Brian Dumbledore wasn't your legal guardian, so he wasn't allowed to take money out of your vault. The amount of 15,000 galleons will be returned as soon as possible," Ruffic said, and I nodded. The goblin left without further ado. I finally found the power to find out who was hugging me. Snape hugged me. "Can someone please explain?" I asked because I didn't understand. "Well, Harry, I guess we owe you an explanation," Tom Riddle began. "You are our first and only child. It was the beginning of spring when Dumbledore and the Order of the Phoenix were able to break into my mansion and steal you. What happened after, we can only guess. Most likely, Lily and James pretended to be your parents for the old ghost." "Professor," I started. "Call me Mother," Snape asked. "Mother, can you please let go of me? You're suffocating me," I said, and he let go. Well, Tom looked through my test. "Harry, take off your glamour," he said, and I shook my head. There was a reason I had placed it. I didn't want anybody to see how horrible I looked. He gave me my wand and a stern look. "Remember, I am your father," he reminded me. So I cast the Fini Incantame and felt the glamour vanish. Now they could see all the bruises, scars, and burns. I saw how bad my knee looked. Man, I really wasn't in a good condition. My mother stood up to search for something when my father came near. "Who?" I had lied about them before I learned to cast glamours. "Tell me, Harry," he said when my mother came back with a potion and made me drink it. It was his well of an uncle, for sure. I saw him when I entered the house. His knuckles were bloody and he looked like he beat someone up. Father picked me up to make me stand. "You are too thin, Harry. From now on, we will monitor your diet," he said. When I looked down on my body, I saw that the potion did. It started to heal my bruises and knee without making scars. Then I remembered that I still had questions. "Why am I wearing a dress?" I asked. "Well, about that," my mother started. "Our families hold traditions high, and in the Grant family, it is traditional for the submissive to wear female clothing to be identified easier. But about the traditions, you will learn more in the next weeks." "What are Veelas?" I asked. "They really don't teach anything at Hogwarts, do they?" Father complained. "Veelas are known to be the most beautiful creatures in the world has ever seen. When you turn 17 in 2 weeks, you will grow white wings and you will start your courting. That is the basics." "And why do I look so much like James Potter?" "This is actually a general assumption. Actually, when I look at you, I mostly see the eyes of Tom's father and the face of my mother. When you believe in something enough, you start to see it. Even I, your mother, thought so. Now, I will show you the mansion, and then we will spend some time in the library, my mother said. End of chapter 1. The Truth.